Alright, I finally wrapped up Assassin's Creed Shadows at just under 85 hours for my total playthrough. I did not try to do a completionist journey. If I had, this would have been a 100-hour plus journey because there is still a lot of stuff left on the table in terms of all the. I think I ended up at rank 5. There's more ranks you can get. I didn't clear all the organizations. Um, I did like maybe the first half, but then around the 60-hour mark, I just sort of started working on main quests only. Um, Spent a lot of time doing my hideout. So anyway, let's talk. This is my final review, and if you haven't already watched the way that I do things here, I do a 3-part review series for every game I play. I do an early thoughts video, which comes out right after the first stream or session. Then there's initial review that happens around the 20 to 25 hour mark, and then a final thoughts video whenever I finish up the game. And on longer games like this, oftentimes at around the 50-hour mark, I will do an intermediate sort of my thoughts on the game, which we did with this game. We've done with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Stalker 2, games that take more than 50 hours to play. So ending up with an 85-hour playthrough was very impressive for this. It was not what I anticipated because I, like many other people, believed the rumors that this was going to be a 30 to 40 hour game and was going to be much more streamlined. This was definitely as big as Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Origins and Odyssey. And I think even though it's not part of the official sort of RPG trilogy that they did, because that all those stories tied together, this game is every bit as big as those games if you want it to be. Now, you do have the freedom to sort of go where you want and do what you want and do things in kind of your own order. And I'm not sure how long it would take if you just did the main storyline. Based on the way I played the game, if you ignore the hideouts and you ignore like the side quest stuff, I bet you could do the main storyline in this game for 40-ish hours if I had to guess. But I think you would need to know where you're going, be using guided exploration, playing on easy mode with guaranteed assassinations, that kind of stuff. I think if you did that, you could probably do a 30 to 40 hour run of just the main storyline. I'd be interested to see if someone has done that yet. I don't really know. I'm just guesstimating off the top of my head. But for me, my playthrough is 85 hours. I definitely felt after 60 hours that I was ready to finish and move on. But that has nothing to do with the game. That has more to do with me as a player because I play so many games and I have so many things that I work on. In terms of being a full-time content creator and streamer, that after about 2 weeks of something, I'm definitely ready to just, what's the next thing on the table. And I definitely, looking at this, having gotten 85 hours out of this, I know for a fact I could have gotten 100 hours plus if I did all the organizations and kept working on my hideout and ranking up from rank 5 to rank 6 and doing all those things. I didn't feel compelled to, but it's nice to know that it is a massive game for the people that want to spend a lot of time here. I know I did 100 plus hours in both. Not on my first playthroughs, but when I came back, I did second playthroughs of Valhalla Odyssey. It was like 120 hours my second playthrough. I've actually never finished a second playthrough of Valhalla because by the time I got around to doing a second playthrough of Valhalla, I was already in full-time content creation, so I haven't had time to go through and do a full second playthrough of that. But I do know it was around 85 hours on my first playthrough of Valhalla as well. So this is a really big game, and there's lots of stuff to do. Now, pros and cons, I think that I've talked about this in the previous videos. I absolutely loved the hideout system in this game, and it's definitely where I spent a good 20-30 hours just decorating my hideout, and collecting pets and going out and gathering Mon, the currency, in game so that I could buy more decorations for my house. I didn't finish building the house. There's more stuff I could definitely do there. But I did spend a lot of time in the hideout and enjoyed it thoroughly, and I'm very happy they included that as a feature. I also think that the weather system and the seasons system should be praised as something that they did that was very unique to this, and I would love to see this showing up in other games, and especially in future Assassin's Creed games where they have a dynamic weather system. It added a sense of realism to the game. Visually, this was a stunning game. I played on the PS5, just the normal PS5, played in performance mode during the longer sessions because of my eye strain, played on quality mode in my shorter sessions. Both modes look great. Performance-wise, the game was very performant throughout the whole time. I only noticed two specific instances where there were frame drops. One was during I was in a castle, and it was just a random thing where I attacked one of the captains in a castle, and the game like hiccuped for a second while I was like as I was going into my combat with him, and then it went chunk 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 for about 5 frames, and then it freed up and it was back to normal. So I'm not quite sure. It was just some sort of a quick little technical glitch. Zero crashes my whole playthrough. No bugs, not a single bug that I saw. Saw that, and then there was another time when I was going through the castle, similar situation where I was attacking somebody, and just as I was going into the combat animation, there was a quick sort of 3 to 5 frame hiccup, and then it was back to smooth as silk. So, yeah, no issues apart from those quick little, two little instances of the frames kind of going, and I don't know what caused it. But both times it was in the middle of me initiating a combat, so I think it had something to do with like probably a combat animation or some sort of a VFX or an SFX. Who knows exactly what was there. But other than that, no issues. Um, Quite enjoyed the combat. She was definitely my favorite in terms of the combat style. I used her for probably 90% of. Well, actually, I pretty much used her own, exclusively unless I was required to play Yasuke for storylines. That was the only time I switched over to Yasuke. It wasn't that he was unfun. It's just that I prefer a stealth-based, agile. The grapple hook was amazing. Like I just like the stealthiness and creeping around in the shadows, going, prone, crawling through bushes, going underwater, swimming, having the tube that you could breathe through. I just thought that her combat, for me personally, was much more fun. I know a lot of people like Yasuke from the combat perspective. It was fun when I played him. It's really kind of interesting to like crash through doors. Um, and it's definitely a completely different play style, but I definitely preferred her character just because that's how I've always played my Assassin's Creed games, is as the archer slash assassin. So not having an archer, not having a bow with her felt kind of, it was different, but it also didn't really matter that much because I had the shuriken and the knives. I can't what they're called. Kunamis? Kuranis? I forget what they're called. When I played him, so I played her exclusively with katana, tanto, and it loved every minute of it. She was spec shinobi, loved it. Um, he was long katana and bow. And I used the bow more and more as I got deeper into the game because as I was able to spend more points in the bow mastery and get like bleed arrows, poison arrows, and build up my how many arrows I can carry, he started to become more deadly with the bow. Um, if I ever went back and played a second playthrough, I would turn guaranteed assassinations on. But I did quite enjoy the leveling up process of the game. In terms of playing on normal mode, it was quite challenging for me, and needing to work my way up to get better and better at assassinating bigger and bigger enemies. It had a very natural feel to that progression in terms of spending points in the assassination tree to earn my ranks up to be able to take larger hit point chunks, health chunks away from the enemies. So by the time you can finally take down the really big guys, it feels very satisfactory. I was saying in I think it was the 50-hour video I did, I started feeling like I was finally becoming powerful around level 30. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. 30 to 35 was when I finally started to feel like she was capable of really taking on multiple threats at the same time. She had a repertoire of abilities that allowed her to duck and tumble around the battlefield and do, the assassinations in combat. That was a really cool ability to get. So I really felt like the skill progression and the quality of life progression with the characters and the leveling pace felt very good. But if I went back and did it again, I would definitely want to, for my second experience, turn on the guaranteed assassinations and then spend my points in other areas to try out the different combat styles. And I love the fact that Ubisoft has given us options. I praised the accessibility options in a different video because I think it is one of the really cool aspects of Ubisoft games. You know, not just this game in particular, but many Ubisoft titles like Star Wars Outlaws. You know, as an example, going through and doing the QuickTime events the first 10 or 12 times where you're having to push button combinations for her meditations and for his sword challenges. It was fun the first few times, but after I did it about a dozen times, I was ready to turn that off and just have it be an automatic thing. Um, so I'm glad that those types of options exist, like turning on guaranteed assassinations and doing stuff like that, because it allows people to have the exact gameplay experiences they want, which brings more people into the game, and the more people playing a game, the better it is for the game and for the company. So um, ultimately, I was very pleased with this. I do think that it ranks up there with one of my favorite Assassin's Creed games of all time. I still am. There are many things in this game that I think are the best things that they have done in Assassin's Creed to date, but I still think Odyssey is going to remain my favorite only because of one factor. And it's not because this is a worse game, it's because I like Greek mythology more than because I don't know the Japanese history or thing. I don't know that much about the Japanese history and culture. So to me, because I know Greek mythology and Greek, you know, and but it's up there. I think for me, my top three experiences now are absolutely Odyssey, Shadows, Valhalla. Those three games take my top three pick. If I had to say honestly, now that I've, you know, especially having played recently Valhalla as well, I would put all three of these on equal standing in terms of being my favorite games in the Assassin's Creed franchise. My personal like for Odyssey is not because Odyssey is a superior game. I actually think this is a superior game over Valhalla um, and Odyssey because of the fact that this has a really great hideout system and the dynamic weather system and the seasons. Those things with the grapple hook and the better stealth gameplay make this a better game technologically and just in terms of evolution, but I still think my personal preference for storyline puts me back into Odyssey. So if I can say it in a way that makes sense, I would say that this is, for me personally, this is the best Assassin's Creed game I've ever played from a gameplay standpoint. But Odyssey still remains my favorite for storyline, and then Valhalla's up in there because of all the Odin and Loki stuff. But this game had an amazing story as well. On In terms of dual protagonists, I don't mind that they did that. It was interesting. It didn't take away from the game for me. But if I was the creative director, I probably would have split this into two games, or maybe had, you know, yeah, that's weird. I don't know that you can split it into two games like that. But sometimes it felt like you could definitely only do Yasuke if you want, but there were the way they did this, where there were certain missions where you need to play one or the other character. There were moments when the storylines did tie in together, but then there's like his Templar storyline had nothing to do with her vengeance tale, and it felt like it was just sort of something that was there that was unique to Yasuke that didn't have anything to do with the overall story. Um, and maybe there's stuff I missed in the additional things that I didn't cover. There was also some questions left on the table about who was the individual in the Animus that was mentioned at the beginning of the game by the narrator who was trying to steal my essence. I didn't find out more about that. Maybe that's stuff I left on the table in terms of not fulfilling all the organization stuff and not doing all of the Animus quests. Um, and again, with Valhalla as an example, there was all of those extra Loki and Odin scenes that I didn't see during my first playthrough because I didn't go collect all those, like, they were like little puzzle things that you had to complete. And I didn't do all those, and I literally just went and watched somebody's YouTube video after the fact and went, "Oh, that's really awesome." So there's definitely a lot of stuff I left on the table here, but after 85 hours, I felt like I definitely got my money's worth, and I'm very excited to see what comes next in terms of the DLC for the main storyline. And I had a great time with this game. I really don't have anything negative to say. I think that if you like Assassin's Creed games, this is going to be another really solid entry into the franchise. If you don't like Assassin's Creed games, you know, it may be up in the air. And if you're someone who thinks that the first three games are the only Assassin's Creed games, then you were never a fan of the franchise to begin with. And I'm going to call you out on that every single time. I've loved all the games in the series, this is one of the best ones. I look forward to what comes down the pipeline next. Love to hear your thoughts. Drop them down below. Like, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Daily streams at around 5 a.m. Central on YouTube and Twitch. This is the day job, and I play a lot of games, so check them all out. We'll see you guys in the next one.